read in books, but you never get to see them practically. You only know them theoretically. For example, when I came here in Canada, I knew for sure that, whenever you go to the east and you go to the west, you gain, you lose time. For 15 degrees, whatever, you lose time. And when I left Kenya to Canada for a shot, I did lose. I lost about 10 hours, but I didn't know that I lost, jet lag and all that. I didn't know that I lost about 10 hours. So I was actually moving, into the past instead of moving to or being at the same part. So that was one of them, landing here, it's 10 p.m., it's still daylight. And I'm like, I'm waiting for darkness to come so that I can maybe go to sleep or something. And then that is one on the environment, the climate and all that, and the time change. And then comes to the issue of food. And, the food that is here is quite different from what I know home, and how accessible that can be, especially for whatever I wanted. And then came the other time, on the other hand, how people dress here, how they carry themselves, and, the system, the infrastructure that enable them move from point A to point B, somehow smooth and very predictable. You can trace anything and everything on your phone. So that was, directions, Google Maps, and all those things. It was very, 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 a learning opportunity for me, including the public transportation and all that, and so many other things. And the most was when I went to class, when I had to now go for whatever brought me here. You go to the class and, the culture or whatever the people are used to do in their classrooms, compared to whatever I knew back in Kenya, whereby, say, you would go to your lecture halls, and the thing you find there, the professor would come, stand at the front there, big microphone, whatever it is, and start lecturing. I went to a class that we were about 10, and I kept looking around more people need to join the class. But again, that was it. We were just 10 of us. So, and that again was a big thing, So if kama wewe ni backbencher nyumbani, hapa sidhani kama kutakuwa na backbencher, itakuwa ngumu sana. So you have to participate in whatever is being brought forward. And then the nature, how the professors and the students do engage, it was so different. Professor comes to class, in pair of shorts and slippers and t-shirts, and life goes on. No ties, nothing, so relaxed, no tense, nothing. And then I also realized that if you work very hard, there is an A plus. So that was my first time in life getting an A plus. I'm like, I think there was a computer error here. How can a plus be in an A? I know A is an A, unless it is minus, right? So those things, and you keep, the system is that was so clear and so, predictable, as I said. And it helped. So adapting to all that, it took me some time and to be able to get into it. But because I was so determined to learn, as I said initially, I wanted to learn more. So I had created space in my mind, whatever comes my way, either will accommodate it, learn it, and be able to go with it. But again, another challenge, and this is a huge challenge, especially for a student like myself who had decided to come here on self-sponsorship. I did sponsor myself to come to Canada to study for my master's. And one thing that, although I may have seen myself as a millionaire in Kenya, when I converted my money from the Kenya shilling to the Canadian dollar, from a millionaire become a thousandaire. So it becomes something very, very challenging for that. So I think I may have more to say on this, but because I know we are a number of us, I will leave it there and answer to any question. There are many things that I would talk to, as Paul said, as a politician, you speak to many things, and I would not want others to repeat. So, Paul, please take over and and make sure next time you tell me to keep it quick. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know you're a politician. Those from Kenya is an aspiring governor. So we'll talk more about that also. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you again. You have highlighted many things. So at this given moment, I'll also call Furaj Chaura. to not also repeat things which Dr. Kimani has mentioned, just to maybe highlight a few things here and there, just take 2 minutes. And also remember to introduce yourself. I'd forgotten to call you upon. Fraha, please come on.
Hello, everyone. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
very clear.
thank you. Okay. I'm Furaha Chaula, is from Tanzania, and currently I'm taking my master's in Belgium. I'm studying master's in statistics and data science, biostatistics specialization, and thanks very much to be here. And maybe by going direct to the question, so what are the factors which influenced me to make decision to reallocate abroad? Yeah, the most of thing that's made me to come this side, it was I got an exposure and I was very eager to get out of my box. And that's why I was very motivated to search for opportunities like scholarship, fellowship, trainings. So any opportunities which were coming before me, I was just applying. Yeah, because I was wanted to get out of my box in short. And the challenges that I got, maybe during planning and moving to the process, it was nothing challenging since the scholarship was very well arranged and everything were under the control the sponsors. So like visa and the way to come here, everything was all under control. And also for the challenging basing on the language and the cultural differences, of course, yes. For me personally, yeah, it was not easy. Yeah, because here, amazingly, in Belgium, it's a European country which have divided into three regions. Yeah, you can find we have three regions which speak different languages. We have a Dutch-speaking country, French-speaking, and German-speaking country region. But to my side, I'm in the region which they speak Dutch language. And at the first time, like when you arrive here, you are given an opportunity as a new student, like to have a 1 week intensive language course, which you can just learn for 1 week. Then after that, you'll start your studies because better enough, the course it is in English language. So it was easier at least like to cope up just to get the basic skills on the language, kile cha kuombea maji tu. So at least it was not so much difficult at the start. But on the way forward, like you see yourself, like there are some challenges, maybe on some opportunities, maybe you are going for maybe for student jobs, there are some opportunities which need you to know some basic or more than the basic language, and that is Dutch, maybe in my side. So it was a little bit challenging, but not so much, because I guess for the international students, they're giving us a consideration because they know that not everyone can speak their languages. So that was somehow a bit challenging, but very manageable. And another thing, a cultural difference, of course, we have differences between these countries, and especially maybe for some stuffs, maybe I can give an example that I faced when I was here. Maybe when you go to the religious places, maybe to the churches, we are used to see that maybe a lot of people in the churches, especially young people, but in this side you can find like a lot of older people are there, but you cannot find young people, or you can find maybe few of them or not at all, you see. So that was among things that I was wondering, like, yes, here there is difference between our place and here. But what I had in my mind, yeah, I accepted to learn the challenges, the new challenges, and to experience new cultures, new culture, and the language, like to learn. So that willingness, at least it make you moving. You just see the days that just go on, but you can manage to live here. Yes, maybe I've answered the whole question.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fra. You really explained so well, and we do
Thank you.
appreciate everything. And we are going to again to discuss more as we move forward. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Fra. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. So for those also who are writing questions, you can also specifically say who you are directing the question to, so that when we go to the question time, so we can know exactly who is going to tackle that question. Thank you so much. So I'll, at this given moment, because Fra is from Europe, so I'll call also Alice, who is in the England, to explain why is it important to establish a strong support network before and after relocating. Alice, please.
Thank you, Paul, for the opportunity again. Yes, I'm in UK. We are still part of Europe, despite the Brexit. Yes, the social systems here are very different from home. The social networks at home are very strong. You got a lot of friends at home and people you keep in touch with. It's very different here in the UK. Everybody's busy working, so even spending time with people is very rare. So it's always important to, the people who keep us sane are the people back at home. When you're making those phone calls, you just want to talk to people back at home, you are able to relate or to network or socialize. You feel you're still human. Because here, you know how the weather is like, most times you're in the house because it's very cold. So it's all about maybe TV, movies and all, or maybe with the children. So hardly do you socialize with people outside. Or even though it's summertime and you go out, UK is known to be very formal. Okay, I wouldn't say people are not warm, but they're very official. So it's maybe just a hi, or even somebody doesn't say a hi. And you're coming from Kenya, where everybody's habari yako, everybody will be saying hi to you, even though they don't know you. So you've got to keep your networks with people back at home. And then also get to know people here, like maybe people from your other countries or your own country. Try and get a group of people whom you can socialize with, even at work, even at your workplace. Try to join people for those lunch outings or work meetings. It helps a lot for the sake of your mental health. Yeah, basically it's very different from home, but you try and cope, keep positive, and try keep in touch with your friends, whether in social media or not. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alice. Thank you so much. Yeah, glad to explain that. And there's also more Sharon to discuss as we move forward also. Thank you so much. So at this moment, also, I'll call upon Divina. And Divina, please tell us what the challenges did you face during planning and moving process? Because you moved to Australia. What are these challenges you really faced, and you really you can advise the people here that you face when you are planning to move to Australia? Welcome, Divina.
Thank you, Dr. Paul, for that. Okay, what I can say about the challenges, especially when you are planning to move out of your country to another country, is finances. And most people, we tend to fear to talk about finances, especially when we move, and people get different or ideas in terms how much they require to move. If you are moving under scholarship, then especially for the scholarship that caters for all the expenses, then it is easier. But if you are moving to support yourself, there is that which is required of you to have. Especially now coming to Australia, if you are moving to Australia as a student, there is expenses that is required of you. You need around for a one person, I can say you need around 2.3, 2.5 million when you're moving as a master's student. That is in Kenyan shillings. So some people tend to move with their spouses and the children, but that cost will increase as per how many people of your immediate family are moving at the same time. With a spouse, you may need around 3 million to 3.5. And when you're moving with children, you can estimate per a child you need around 300,000 for you to move. Okay, what I encountered, especially when you are planning to move, as I said, in some time you are required to pay some money and you do not have, or you did not prepared for. That was a big challenge. But getting here, it's easier also to know how you are going to settle down, because you will need a place to put up, you will need to move around before some time for you to get somewhere to work and get some money to pay for your bills. That one, exactly no one tells you. For me, I will estimate that you need some money to keep you going for at least 1 to 2 months here in a foreign country. But if you have someone who can help you stay in their own home, then that's much better. However, what I've come to learn in a foreign country, it's good to plan ahead in terms of where you're going to put up. What I also can say about relocating is you're going to cut down some family ties back home. When you come here, you have to run up and down because you really want to settle, you want jobs. And I came here and I saw that time is actually money. Even getting time to call because bills are waiting for you to pay, it takes a sacrifice. So it's good to plan in advance. Even let your family know sometime you may be offline, or they may see you online but you cannot even call. If at all you are at work, you can't call, you can't pick some calls. So that is the experience I got here. And another thing is how to identify the agent who is planning for you to move to a new country. Like now coming to Australia, in most universities, when you are coming as a student, you need to go to their online website and they see the registered agent back in your country that is authenticated to process on their behalf. Don't just get to anyone. I don't know if I've answered that question, but I can stop there because of time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Divina. Thank you so much for clarifying that, especially the last also point you have mentioned. Be careful on the kind of agent you're using, especially in Australia. Divina has spoken, she's in Australia. So like most of the universities in Australia, they need you to use agents. So you have to check where those agents are registered and they're the ones which are allowed to do that. So thank you so much for clarifying that, Divina, and we discuss more also on that. So at this given moment, I'll call Edna. Divina also mentioned about the scholarships, like if you have a scholarship, at least you can be able to settle somehow fast as compared to those who are self-sponsored. So Edna got a scholarship to go to Switzerland. So she will tell us maybe is the scholarship enough to pay bills, to pay tuition, and also to give some money to the family home. Please, welcome, Edna.
Thank you, Paul. So I'll talk from my own experience. And before I do that, at least there are many places where you can get scholarships. Actually, scholarships are abound in many places. So for instance, here in Switzerland, there is a Swiss Excellence Scholarship from, let's say, the government, and it's administered through the consulates in various countries with deadlines between September and November. We have university-specific and various professorship. So a professor writes a proposal, gets funding from a funding institution, let's say, for instance, the Swiss National Foundation, then they hire a student. So in terms of amounts, it's sufficient for you as a person. And you may ask why. Switzerland is an expensive country, so my assumptions may not apply to all other countries. So the amount you get here is sufficient for you to live at least a good standard, because everything from housing, health, super expensive. But if you budget well, that should suffice. And also in terms of living well, then learn never to compare prices. Never translate anything to your Kenyan shilling or whichever currency that you have. In terms of application, allow me to touch on that, Paul, because I'm seeing some questions shooting around there. So it's good to identify the institution you have an interest in. And you could do that by subscribing to their job adverts, or you subscribe to pages that, let's say, scholarships for international students. Then you'll be getting updates and you're able to note one that is of interest to you, and then you apply. And in application, you have to stand out. The professor takes 20 to 30 seconds to choose which goes to trash and which one to consider further. So you have to take that chance then to showcase your ability, and with that, you're able to stand out and be able to qualify. I hope I've answered it, Paul. I know I digressed a bit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Edna. Thank you a lot for clarifying that. And we are going again to delve more into that as we progress. Thank you so much. So at this moment also, I'll call upon Dr. Naftali. Dr. Naftali is in China. So China, they don't speak English. How did he do his PhD there in China? And now he's an assistant professor again in China. So how is he traversing that? And when you moved there, I remember you moved through scholarship. Was the scholarship enough also to do that? And can you still get a job, especially in China? So because as we just want to move to go and work in China, so how have you progressed on this? Maybe also you take also short time so that we can go to the other discussion. Thank you so much and welcome.
Okay, Dr. Robert, ni hao. Yeah, I know you have not forgotten some Chinese. So thank you for the questions that you have asked about. Maybe just to give an overview of the life in China. Just also to add to what the previous speakers have spoken about. In China is a bit unique in the way the country is structured and the laws and the way of life. You understand the dynamics and a few other issues that allowed the way of life in China, and therefore challenges in China there are many. You find yourself you're not in a place where you can enjoy maybe your religious belief. You find yourself where you cannot talk politics. You find yourself where you might have to relearn the way that you know about the way of life, and therefore there are many challenges that we would have said that we have weathered all along. Issues about food, issues about culture, but the language, as you say, is the biggest challenge. Most of the Chinese people do not speak English; they speak Chinese. And if you don't know how to speak Chinese, then you have to get a lot of difficulties. There are even some situations whereby some courses are taught in bilingual, but the professor will never teach in English. So you have to float, try to understand what is being taught, and try to catch up as fast as possible. These are some of the challenges that we face. But I would say my program was being offered in English, though there were some units. There were some units that were being offered in bilingual. Bilingual means the professor should have in Chinese and have in English. But most of the times you find, professor delivering these course units still in Chinese. A big challenge, how to adjust that is, you have to learn as fast as possible. You have to be fairly robust and fairly dynamic. That's the greatest takeaway I would say about the language. But one of the other challenges I must, prepare anyone who might be having interest in coming to China is the lace issue. It's real and it's alive. I may not want to dwell so much about that, but you might find yourself in a situation where you are minority in almost everything. You are minority in terms of your religion. You are minority in terms of your race. You are minority in terms of your culture and the way you behave. You are minority in terms of the language. So you might find yourself as well in a hall of people where no one speaks English, maybe just one professor, and you have to try and adjust. You might find yourself like my own school. I was just me and one guy from Rwanda. We were the only Christians. All the others were from different, belief systems, and you have to adjust to that, for you to realize your goals. And therefore, what I would say to everyone who would be willing to join maybe any institution in China, you have to prepare your mind and your brain or your mind to relearn some of the things that you might have learned in life, and also understand how you can be able to maneuver that. How did I manage that? In this life, there's nothing for free. You have to force things. You have to push yourself, and you have, as I said, you have to learn and learn again. And therefore, when I came, one of the areas that really helped me to integrate with the community was sports. I'm a sports person since I was young, and therefore I joined the school team for volleyball. We would not communicate when you're playing volleyball, but because I was good, I had so many, friends, and they would really wish me to join their teams, and we would try to, communicate using non-verbal cues, and and we learned all along. And they used to like me. I was even in the provincial team, and we really had some good time. Therefore, in China, the principle is simple. You have to show that you have something to offer. If you have nothing to offer in China, no one will be interested in what you do. You shall live a lonely life. Now, going to about the scholarship, I was admitted to do my PhD on MOFCOM scholarship. MOFCOM scholarship is organized by some Ministry of Commerce. It is a partnership program between your host country and your mother country, and therefore is usually organized by Ministry of Trade. I think there's a department there, and they usually give opportunities. Their admission is usually in July, August, but the applications is usually done in February. I will later share the links and any information that might be required. But I would say in China, if you are, for example, taking a PhD, the support is about, the stipend is about 3,500 plus some other, benefits. In case, for example, you're given housing, 2,000 shillings. You used to get like 5,500 RMB, which is a fairly good amount. That's about 110,000. If you're not misspending your money, you can be able to manage, manage your life. On the issue about planning, is important for me to highlight here that you have to manage yourself. You have to manage your time before you intend even to, as my previous, speakers have said it. You need to plan yourself. You need to know how much period am I planning to spend in, in my in the country that you want to visit. For example, if you're going for studies, is it a long term or is it a short term? I am in many groups where we have, people who came for PhD. If you find someone having crisis, maybe having crisis because time is running out. She or he have not been able to finish, his PhD. He needed maybe to marry. He needed maybe to settle, and now it becomes a challenge, And that's why I'm saying some of these issues you need to balance them. life is about balancing. So when you're planning about shifting or relocating for studies, you need to have all this. One of the challenges that you might witness or you might have is if you are not able to communicate with the host institution frequently, and possibly you're not able to be allocated someone to guide you through the process. Anytime you apply for PhD, for scholarship or for admission in a foreign country, ensure you have someone whom you have been allocated. You can even request the institution, they always have secretaries. You can request to be allocated a foreigner to guide you through the process. Possibly he can take you from the airport, possibly he can guide you on some of the requirements. And I think that will prepare you in a simpler manner. Otherwise, if you travel, for example, in China and you know no one, you cannot speak Chinese, possibly the network fails, and your phone maybe is not used to the systems in China, you find yourself in a big dilemma. So I believe that if you have the right information, if you prepare yourself, if you plan yourself, and you know what you want to achieve, you can be able to accomplish all that you want to achieve. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Naftali. Thank you. You have really highlighted so well, better than what I could have said. Thank you so much for highlighting all that. Yeah. So the next we'll go to another question just related to what we have discussed. So again, I'll call Dr. Kimani. Dr. Kimani, there is this issue, and we normally have this question all the time. Canada, Australia, Belgium, UK, China, high-paying jobs. The moment I relocate to abroad, I'm going to get a job and I'm going to buy a car, and the house, I'm going to get a house. Please, can you take just 2 minutes or less than that? Tell us about this. Am I going to get a job very fast the moment I move to these countries, especially maybe Canada? Am I going to get a house? Am I going to get a car and money to support family home? Please, Dr. Kimani.
A quick answer to your questions, Paul, is no. Unless you're coming with lots of unless you're coming loaded. The simple question is no. And I think that is what either Edna may have mentioned about, and I did talk about it, the conversion of your Kenya shilling to whatever currency you convert, as long as it is it is like the way it is with the Kenya shilling, and no, it's not possible. Getting a good job, no. And why is it so? And especially, I would speak specifically for Canada here. I would say 90% no. So there's a 10% yes chances, and that would come as a result of the need and your expertise. For example, if there is nobody else qualified to do a certain job that they need done here, and you coming from Kenya have the expertise, the experience, you'll get a job. But if there is a Canadian who can do that job, forget about it. You have to go through the whole process of converting and getting the Canadian experience, as we call it, to be able to access it. So it will take time for you to be able to go and get to whatever you want to go. Why do I say so? Coming from Kenya, a professional working in the education field, when I came here, I could not even get permission to teach in a primary school. I don't want to say more than that, but that one explains everything. I have seen doctors coming from other countries, say, for example, the Middle East, from Iran and all that, and they're just doing some menial jobs, cooking and sweeping. I'm being very honest, not to discourage anybody, but will you one day get there? Of course, yes, you will. I was coming here to do my master's for 2 years. Do not ask me what I'm doing here 9 years down the line.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Kimani. He is speaking the truth and 100% truth. We should not have high expectations. The way I said, I'm a professional teacher. I was a mathematics, physics teacher. I changed fields here and there, but I could have not come to even teach. I can now even get a job to teach. So you have to go through the process. It's a long, long process, but that does not mean you cannot get an opportunity. So we discussed also more about that. Divina, please tell us, you moved recently to Australia and you've been looking for a job. Very high paying jobs, a lot of money. The moment I move from Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania to Australia, I'll get a job immediately and I'll send money home.
That is very interesting. The expectations are always high. When for me, I was working in Kenya. I have 10 years experience in web development. So when I was moving to Australia, actually, I used education as a stepping stone to get here. When I get here, I should look for a job in my area. So as Dr. has said, actually, you'll get there eventually, but you have to allow the process. You have to be patient with yourself because there's some things that you need to do. So for me, when I got here, I wanted to go to IT industry because that's my area. And now I made some applications. So some of them, they were asking me if I'm a permanent resident. Some they were asking me, how many years have you been in Australia? I'm a couple of months here. So, and you need the way we say is the supporting systems, the networking. You need to know how to get there. So I didn't have any information. So I had to take up any job that comes across for me to pay the bills. So I ended up doing something else I was not doing back home. As I processed what is required of me to get to my area. So anyone who is coming, the first thing you need to know, how can you get to your area of expertise in a foreign country? There is a procedure for every field. Like for those one in some field like mine, there is what we call, you need to go through the registration body, the professional bodies. Like in Kenya, we have Computer Society of Kenya. I tend to think that is the same thing they do with foreigners. So I have to do skill assessment with the Australian Computer Society so that they can leverage my skills back home to the skills here. So when they approve that one, when I get that one goes through, then I can be able to compete with anyone. The way Dr. has said, if you're a foreigner and you're applying, they have to be sure that there is no one in their own country who can do what you are applying for. Then they will give you a job. But eventually, when you are, I've seen people here who have succeeded in different fields, but they normally tell you it takes 6 to 1 year to be able to get to your area of expertise. That big money you are looking for, it won't come, but you have to be patient with yourself. You have to allow the process to continue. But meanwhile, you'll do something that will enable you pay bills and keep moving. Also, another culture shock that I got here is like when I was applying for the jobs is you need to have a car. Actually, someone can tell you, can you attach the insurance, the comprehensive insurance for your car? So imagine you are coming from Kenya and you don't have a car. Definitely you can't apply for such a job. So the way I said, you really need to plan and plan well. But you will get there. The beginning may be a bit challenging, but the beauty of it, you will get where you want to get. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Divina, for highlighting that. Thank you so much. Especially, you need a car, and also you need driving. If you don't have a car, make sure when you're moving abroad, at least you have a driving license. So there's a whole lot of legislation issues. Or if you want to own a car, or if you want to drive, Dr. Kimani knows it very well. So at this moment, I go. Please, where is Alice? Alice is a nurse. How did you really move to UK as a nurse? And I'm a nurse in Kenya. and I just want to move to UK and get a job. So is there a job? I want to move tomorrow. Tell us, please. Less 2 minutes, please. Less than 2 minutes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, yes, nothing is diversified. I was initially a clinical nurse in Kenya, but my aim was to move abroad completely, to practice abroad. So most of my friends were moving here in Europe and the US. So it was quite a task but it needs determination. You need to, just as some people have said, you need to be verified by professional bodies. The Nursing and Midwifery Council in the UK. So you have to sit for some theoretical exams, and then you have to, when you come here, you do some skills examination. But they help you out in the skills examination. That's the practicals. They train you and they take you for the exam. Once you pass, you are a qualified nurse. Remember, you also need to do your English exams, that's the IELTS and the others, for them to ensure that you studied in English or you're able to practice using the English language as well. So basically in the UK, you need your theory from the Nursing and Midwifery Council. That one you do it back in Kenya via the computer. Then once you come here, you do the practicals, what we call the OSCE. And it's not hard, let me tell you. Once you have your nursing papers back home and you're licensed by the Nursing Council of Kenya, all these jobs are online. They are online, you check on the NHS, various NHS hospitals, they're always doing international recruitment. You check on various care homes, they do international recruitment. So your work is just to pass your English exam, your nursing exam offered by the NMC, and then when they will sponsor your everything, they will sponsor you for the exam. They will pay for your examination, that's your practicals. They will pay for your flight, and they'll give you the job. So it's just being determined, that is just focusing that you want that job. And once you come here, then they will train you, because you got the knowledge, but the skills are different, because maybe the machinery is different from what we use back home, or maybe the technology is different, but they always hold your hand for the safety of the patients. So it's something worth trying and doing. Can't regret. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Alice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. Edna, you are in Switzerland as a student. Is it easier to get a job? I'm going to move and I'm expecting to get a job. Now as a student, how is it easier to get a job where you are? Please take less than a minute to answer that.
The caveat here is you are on full scholarship, then that's treated as 100% work, so you're not eligible to work. If you're self-sponsored or partially sponsored, then you have the opportunity of looking for jobs. But again, we have 4 national languages and English is not one of them. So the kind of jobs are also limited, but it's possible to get something so long as you're not choosy. Thank you.
So much. Thank you so much for being very clear on that. So Furaha, you are in Belgium, also as a student. So how easy to get a job? Also, please, less than a minute to answer that question. Furaha.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Paul. Yes, in Belgium, for the case of a student, we have student jobs. For all the students, we are allowed to do student jobs, and it is limited like for 447 hours per year. Every student can work. That is for a master student, but for PhD students, yeah, they are not allowed to work because it is termed as a work, also as an employment for them. But for master students, we're allowed to do student jobs also.
Okay, thank you so much, Fra. Thank you for clarifying that. So Naftali, please come up and tell us the jobs also in China. Also take almost a minute to tell us. As a student, were you allowed to work, and are you supposed to work also after graduating? How is it easier to get a job? Please, 1 minute.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Paul, you know the situation here in China. The laws do not allow you to work when you are students. And if you're caught, there are two things: you're fined and you're deported home. That's the law here is in black and white. There's no discussion about it. However, if you graduate or when you graduate, you can apply to work in China. Chinese people will never will never employ you unless, just as the other countries, also other European countries, unless the skills you possess and your abilities are really good enough. And especially here in China, they look at your ability, for example, to do research, the quality of the papers you've published, and the work and the results. If they are really good, if they are in JCR1 and they are in the top journals, then you stand a chance. That is one of the criteria. In fact, the main criteria that's usually used to get your position. Now, there are some jobs that other people who might wish to maybe travel to China to work. There are some jobs that people usually do. For example, teaching English, because in China you don't have manual jobs. Most of the jobs are computerized, or they are they're using robotics and automation to achieve all this revolution, industrial revolution, and to produce the goods they export. And therefore, the only jobs that I have seen with most of the foreigners is maybe teaching English to kindergartens or primary schools. But I would still say that if you are to prepare yourself to take on such kind of a job, you need to prepare yourself. One, you might need to have a TESL certificate, that is teaching English as a second language. And you may also need to have an international training certificate. These two certificates can help you to get, for example, an international school where you can teach English. One of the other areas that I find people, coming and joining is maybe advertisement and marketing through TikTok, and especially, marketing in areas like Europe and US. But still, it's not a fairly, easy job, because you have really to work and to work hard. And sometimes you're paid you're paid by a commission, and other times you're given maybe a standard salary plus some milestones you have to achieve. But over and above, I would encourage everyone who is listening to my voice today, develop yourself so that you become more competitive. By the time you get maybe to a level of Dr. Paul and even masters, for masters going up, the moment you can be able to prove yourself that you have something tangible to offer, everyone, including blue chip companies here, will be looking for you. Okay, but if you are not able to prove yourself, and more so here we deal with the research, you have to have some novelty in whatever that you're doing. You have to have top, we call them sort of state of the art resorts. If you're not able to achieve that, you shall have to go back home. So that is the situation. And just to give you a highlight, it's not easy to get a job in China if you don't have that level. I can give you a very good example. In the institution I'm in, I'm the only African. See, and we have some guys from Middle East, maybe like two, in a teaching unit of more than maybe 600, professors and doctors and so on. And therefore, I would say the competition is a bit high. But if you can be able to develop yourself and prove yourself that you have something to offer to the world will open its hands for you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Naftali. Yeah, in China, it's not that easy. Like you go, you are studying, and then you work. It's illegal. If you are found, you're in terrible situation. Yeah. Kimani, please come up and tell us this. I have a visitor visa and I want to change it to work visa. So I'm moving into Canada tomorrow and I have a visitor visa, and an agent has helped me, has told me the visitor visa is a work visa and you are going to change it to start working. And the moment you start to work, the money you're going to get enough to support the family home. Please, 1 minute, tell us about that.
Yeah, very, Paulo, you become very provoking, but it's fine. And again, it depends where in Canada. For example, here in British Columbia, there are some areas that that can happen. You can change your visitor visa into work permit. However, as has been said in other countries, it has to follow a certain process, and it is not in each and every field. For example, at the moment, I think if you're in the medical field, say like nursing, or somebody who is able to like give like care aid or something, there is a process. It is not like a black and white kind of a thing. No, that's one. Like, you go through the process. If you're lucky, you get a good agent who is not going to defraud you, because most agents are frauds. You're good. The other hand is like getting an employer away from whatever you are and getting whatever they call the LMIA. That is the like the index to measure the labor owner. And this is, as we said before, they have been looking for somebody and they haven't found, and therefore they have been given the opportunity to look for somebody from elsewhere, and that's where the LMIA will come in, and that's where they will give it to you and employ you even when you're out there. You could, maybe some agents are able to get those ones, and sometimes they're very expensive. I was talking to one of the agents who is here, and they were telling me sometimes they would sell that LMIA thing for close to 35 Canadian dollars. So kama uko Kenya huu unachimba viazi, sasa 35,000 unatoa, convert that one, times 100 for example, hiyo ilikuwa 3 point something million. So si ufanye kazi ya kuuza kuku Kenya, unaweza kuwa president one day. So there are those things. And then when you come, if you're lucky, you get something that is simple. You come to, you could get something maybe for 6,000 or something, LMIA again. And that is when you are already converted, meaning you have already gone through the hassle of changing your visa to this one. You can get something for 6,000 or so if you have a good agent again and a good company. The money you're given sometime, and this is where maybe you mentioned about the money, is it enough? No, not enough, because most of the time you're given jobs based on contracts. And this contract, sometimes you might find maybe a contract is 70,000 per year. And this is, unlike Kenya, here people do pay taxes. So it is 70,000 inclusion or inclusive of taxes. So after taxes, you may be taking home maybe 50,000. So 20,000 imekunywa maji, imeenda kujenga nyumba za serikali hapa Canada. So you must also take into account, okay, how much money will I be taking home by the end of the day? It has, if your goal is to be able to support your family back home because you have sold the land, you have sold everything, you need to support them back, you have to look at all those factors. So by the end of the day, it is possible to change your visitor visa into a work permit. However, it is not in each and every field. You can also go through the LMIA thing. However, it's a long process, an expensive process for that matter. So sometimes I would say, look for if your dream is just to come and then maybe go back like myself, look for the most valid way to come that will validate each and everything you do, education or advancing your knowledge and going back. Lakini kuja ni kibarua. Kuna watu amba kuna kazi wako wanafanya hapa, my friend. But anyway, simple, like namna hiyo.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Kimani. Yeah, it's quite challenging, but if you come, and you're lucky, because sometimes people are lucky, some are not, but the key is there's a challenge, but you have to follow the steps to go through what you want. So, Alice, I think we had some discussion, and you may plan at one time to move to the USA somehow. I'm sorry to mention that one, but you're my friend. Just don't kill me. So, and issues of residence, like you have worked, you have work permit, you have worked, you want to be maybe a permanent resident, maybe in the UK, or you are also thinking about the US. Can you tell us something briefly around that? You have work permit, everything, but you really want to live there as a permanent residence. Tell us, please, in 1 minute. Yes.
All right. Okay, that's fine. The UK has different pathways to get your permanent residency, what you call the indefinite leave to remain. For if you come here on a work visa like we did, it takes you 5 years to get your permanent residency. As compared to other countries, like if you go on work visa to the US, most times they give you the green card and you get your permanent residency. So it depends on the pathway you use to come to the UK. I know there is the global talent visa, like for the scholars. I think it takes a shorter time, like 3 years. There's another pathway that takes all the way 10 years. I'm only very conversant with my pathway, which takes 5 years. Yeah, maybe there has been a bit of inflation in it's global, but it's being felt a lot in the UK. So hoping my boss is not following. Some of us are thinking of relocating, or maybe you've secured some jobs in other countries. That's why we are having such measures of maybe relocating to the US. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alice. Still, I'm going back also to Kimani. Issues of permanent residence. Also, UK has some similarities with the Canada, and I have also to clarify this. I used to see on social media, Canada does not have a green card. Canada is about permanent residence. Alice has clarified very well about US a green card, but Canada does not have a green card. Canada is a permanent residence. But so I'm happy Alice, you've clarified that one, like US green card. So Canada also permanent. Kimani, permanent residence in Canada, can it take 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years? The moment I move in with a work permit, or the moment I move in as a student, or as a, yeah, please, less than a minute, tell us that.
Okay. So with the permanent residence, yeah, it's a very unique thing for anybody to be able to get it. I think there are few pathways you can get permanent residency. There is for the skilled people, if you have like some sort of, there's a pool, they put people who have got, or if you're qualified in a certain field and they need people in that field, they put people in the pooling, and then it's a point-based, merit-based. You do an exam, the one we talked about initially, the IELTS and the SALPIP and all those things, plus many other experiences. And then based on how many points you get, you can get the whatever they call the express entry, and that one will get you direct to getting permanent residency in Canada. That's one route. The next one is when you are away in, say in Kenya, you can still go through the same process and get the permanent residency as well through the same express entry draw. So that one is point based, and sometimes it's between 500 and 600 or whatever it is, based on so many other things. The other route is like for my, in case of myself, as I said, I came here in 2015. I wasn't in the field. I wasn't in the business of trying to stay here. I was coming here for 2 years and go back home. But again, many things happened, and I'm here. Those people who came very determined to get their PR and eventually getting the citizenship, they are citizens, because there is a way you can work once you finish studies. For example, if your studying period is more than 18 months, or say 2 years, after you finish, depending on what institution you go, because again, it is not each and every institution, each and every course you take that will give you something called postgraduate work permit. If you get the postgraduate work permit, having been in an institution for more than 2 years, you'll get a 3 years postgraduate work permit. Within these 3 years, that is like to give you permission to stay in Canada to continue working so that you can advance yourself, get skills that is needed, get experience that is needed, so that you can apply for what they call a work, the permanent residency within the 3 years. You have to get a job. So again, you have like to seriously search for a job, and they don't come easily. They are online, fine. But again, don't forget those people who employ a human being. Na huku pia ukabila iko. So you have to be like quite abrasive, ambitious, and you have to go for it. Get a job within the 3 years. And then once you get a job, work for 1 year, you can now apply for permanent residency. And then from there, you can apply for your citizenship and whatnot. And another way to become a permanent resident, angukia mzungu ama angukiwa na mzungu ama whoever is a citizen. Yeah. Alafu sasa you have to deal with the terrains of being in a relationship, in a marriage, or whatever it is. Alafu you guys can continue. But again, as Paul mentioned, this process can take anywhere between, depending on who, again, because the people who are processing these things are human beings like yourself. So for somebody for sick, they go for maternity leave, they go for whatever leave, whatever in their offices. So if your file was received by somebody and then they take off, or they are facing a disciplinary action, whatever it is, so your file might stay on their desk for longer periods. So some people might say it took me 3 months to be processed from point A to point B. Some people will tell you it took years to be processed. So it is no standard, although they will say it will take about 15 months to be processed, but it can take anything between there and longer than that. Again, I'm just highlighting a few of these things. For more comprehensive things and ways and possibilities, you can go to CIC, that is the Canadian Immigration Commission website, and you can be able to see all the things that are required and needed. And of course, we can always chat on the side when that one comes to your attention and you would want maybe to relocate to Canada. Not that I'm going to help you, I'm going to guide you into getting the necessary things that may be required for you to be able to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Kimani, for highlighting that. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, Edna, you're in Switzerland and you're a student. Is it easier to move straight to permanent residence, or do you feel it's right to do that? Edna, please.
Thank you, Paul. Here, depending on the country you're coming from, it takes 5 to 10 years. But also the catch is they have to prove that there is no Swiss who qualifies for the job. They have to qualify there is no person from the EU or the EFTA, the US, Canada, Australia, then you fit in the rest of the world. So if you get a work permit, then 5 to 10 years, depending on your country of origin. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You are very clear and to the point. Yeah, thank you so much. Alice, this is who? No, Fraha. Fraha, Belgium, see something you can move straight. Belgium, about the permanent residence. You're now a student, you'll finish studying and then tell us just less than a minute.
Yes, to get a permanent working permit also for here is not, I can say it's not easy, though there are regulations. But after graduating your master degree, maybe we are given 1 year, as such year they are calling it. So during that year, you are just doing like searching for job, for opportunities if you want to stay here. And if you get an opportunity, maybe an employment, so it will depend if that employer wants to maybe to sponsor you a visa, so that is possible, maybe through a contract. So you'll get a contract of some years, but maybe I don't have so much details on that, but after working for a while, like maybe 5 years, then after that you can apply for a permanent visa, like for the lifetime. But also the other side, also there are other options, like maybe if you have a family reunion, if you have maybe a child with a native here, or if you have been married with a native here, also you have a chance to get a permanent visa. Yes, I don't know if I'm clear.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for clarifying all that. So Naftali, Dr. Naftali, in China, permanent residence, how is it possible? Please take less than a minute for that.
Okay, thank you so much. In China, their policies are a bit, they're getting a bit flexible. Previously, we never had anything about permanent residency, but right now they have introduced what they are known as city level policies. For example, in if you are working in top cities, top 5 cities currently, I think Zhejiang province, Shanghai, Shenzhen, where I am, and they have also introduced it in Beijing. They have introduced what they call the permanent residency, but in China you cannot get citizenship. So the requirements are quite high. You need to have a PhD from here. You need to have some you need to have worked for 2 years in the city that you're applying from, and then you get it. And they start with 5 years, and then there are 10 years, and then from there you get the permanent residence. So that's how it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Naftali. Thank you, everyone. And the last one I really call is Divina. How about Australia? I know you are also relatively new, but I think you have some ideas about it. Can you tell us briefly about Australia in terms of permanent residency issues? Please take also like a minute, less than a minute.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, actually, the first thing when you move to Australia, what you ask yourself is getting those papers that is required of you to settle down. So from my analysis, what I can say is that for you to become a PR here, to have the permanent resident, you really need to see if your area of expertise under skill shortage. Then you will need to do skill assessment. Then if you pass through the skill assessment, then you can apply for permanent resident, that which will take around 2 to 5 years, depending on how you put your papers. So because they will assess you basing on the papers you have provided, the documentation you have provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Divina, so much for that. Yeah, highlighting that. So at this given moment, we take a few questions because I've seen what we had, like as really been highlighted by everyone, like they have talked about it, and the question I've seen on the chat, also most of them, they have been covered. So if you have any pressing question, you can just raise your hand. We can just give you a floor to ask something which we have not covered, please. And yeah, you can raise your hand if there's someone who has a question which is really pressing. So as I'm waiting to see if there's any personal question which we have not covered, I have something here.
Paul, if I may,
Yes.
maybe touch a little bit on, I think, the issue of scholarship.
Yeah, as you continue,
I think it's a very...
Yes. As you continue, then if anyone has a question, so you raise a hand as Dr. Kimani is also talking about that. We'll give you time. Proceed, Dr. Kimani, please.
Yeah, I think this is one of the, I'm very sure many people that are in this call, and especially from Kenya, that is one opportunity that they would seriously would want to consider, because again, looking at the economic status for many countries and including Kenya, scholarship would make a lot of sense. But are these scholarships available? Are they sufficient for everybody? No. But are they there? Yes, they're there. So where do you need to get them? I would advise anybody who is on this call to be able to, be aggressive enough and use your data, to scout for such of, forget TikTok and other things. whichever country you select, you would want to go and study. Delve into that particular country and look at the institutions that they have for higher education, and particularly in your field. And then dig deeper into the department or the faculty that you would want. Sometimes they have very hidden scholarships that are even for international students like yourself. And you can start by talking to a particular professor or assistant professor like Dr. Wambogo here, and you establish that kind of a relationship, because the process, again, as I said, people know people, and you also need to be known by people. Unfortunately, that is the situation we have. However, at times it depends on your merits. So there are, I would say that, for example, in my university where I went to study for my master's and my PhD, if you get an opportunity of getting a spot to get to PhD, it is for free for 4 years. There is what we call the 4-year fellowship. You'll be given that one and you study for free. For masters, the level of scholarship for masters are very limited. That will guarantee you. And when you go to bachelor's, again, because it's one of the most expensive institutions for undergraduate studies. But again, are there scholarships? There could be some institutions, and given on the field that you would want to study, there are those scholarships that are there. There was this one, there are Fulbright scholarships that you could look to. There is the MasterCard Foundation that you could look into, and now go to, United Nations. There are so many, depending on whatever field of research you would want to delve into. But you have to put some, you have to offload a lot of work doing that, because you might ask somebody when you're huku nitafutie. As somebody said at the beginning, and I think this is the vener, time is money. Hata salamu wakati mwingine, even in this call, making this call to you, yeah. Anyway, but it is there, and we can always, sometimes we come across something, we can always share with you people, because we would also want to see you shine and eliminate some of these hassles. Hata we ukae mahali ambapo tuko, to be able to narrate the story that we are trying to narrate at the moment. But by that time, it will be differently. Thank you so much, Dr. Nyakundi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kimani. Yeah, I think we have really highlighted most of the question, everything. There is one thing maybe I can give who is this? Divina. People say scholarship is free. You went, I remember you went for a scholarship in China, your first master's, which you did. They say scholarship is free. When you share, you tell them there is admission fee. They say, oh no, you want to take our money. Is the scholarship free? Like the whole process is free? Divina, please, can you tell us something? Please, less than a minute.
Oh, okay, thank you. If I can recall back when I went for my first scholarship to China, I was under MOFCOM scholarship, but I was given that scholarship through my employer. So what I can say is it depends on the scholarship you're applying for. Every scholarship has what they can cater for and what they cannot cater for. There's those scholarships that will cater for everything, inclusive of the admission, logistic, and everything that you're going to incur all the expenses. And there's those scholarships that eliminate some expenses that you as the applicant, you as a candidate, you should be able to pay for. So first, know what kind of scholarship are you applying for? Is it partial? Is it full? Or it has also some percentage in terms of 20%, 25%. So be careful to read those requirements of each and every scholarship. Thank you.
So much. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Different scholarships have different requirements and the way they have been clarified. So like I got a scholarship, full scholarship in China. So I had to pay admission fee, although the scholarship was full. So I paid admission fee for being admitted to the university, and then the scholarship came to cater for the other things. So there are also other scholarships which caters for everything. Yeah, they're quite different. So there's a question which has been raised here. One is talking about having an acceptance letter. Like I have already received an acceptance letter from the University of Tennessee, USA for my master's. My biggest dilemma is the proof of funds. because I applied for assistantship at the university and I'm yet to get a reply. I think Dr. Kimani can say that mostly on the proof of funds. 1 minute on that. How do you prove this? Please, less than a minute, Dr. Kimani. And also,
Yeah.
also the issue of proof of funds, also mention that on yes, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paul, on that. And this is very, very, key, because the reason as to why nowadays institutions are asking for proof of funding, initially they didn't pay attention, but now they have started paying attention to that, because most students that get this acceptance and they come over and they go whatever, eventually they end up on the streets because they have depleted the monies that they maybe brought with them, and after the conversion that money goes off, and then it takes them longer to access a job, and therefore they're not there. So the universities are taking that seriously, and to be able to mitigate that, they are requiring, and especially here in Canada also, they require you like now to put down 20,000 Canadian dollars into a GIC account. That money will come and use later. So that is one way. And then on the other hand, if they just want you to prove that you have money, look for your relatives that may give you a bank account, or their bank statement kind of, and they will have to support that one with a letter of saying that they will be the ones that are going to be supporting you in that, or anybody who can do that. Other than that, the university will likely not accept. However, the university has accepted you. Immigration might not grant you, because I think it goes the other way around. You get admission, then you apply for visa or study, whatever it is, to come over. So you have to be very, very careful on how you're going to go about the funding. Get somebody who can either support you somehow by giving you their bank statement, or if you have a good bank statement, go for it and prove it. If you have a piece of land or any asset kind of a thing, again, you can attach that. But again, you cannot use a piece of land when it is still in your possession and you need the money in the USA. So it has to be converted somehow. So be creative on that end.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kimani, for that clarifying. Really, just maybe last part is Divina, proof of funds. You're moving proof of funds.
Okay, thank you for that. What I can say, when they ask you about the proof of fund, most students, they go to foreign countries, you have to show that you can pay for your fees, your tuition fees and all the expenses. You're not required actually to want the work. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, do you have someone who can sponsor you, as the doctor has said, or do you have that money in your account? If they ask you 4 million, proof of fund of 4 million, you really need to have a 3 months statement before, when you are applying for the visa, not more than 3 months, that shows that there is a transaction going on in that account. Most people, what they have as a result to rejection of visas is when you get proof of fund on the accounts that doesn't exist. And whoever is giving you the statement, because most of when you are coming as a student, you as an individual, you may not have that money in your account. You need someone who can say, maybe it's your uncle, a relative kind of. You need also to prove how related you are. That one comes to the birth certificate of the person giving you the statement, and it needs to be the first immediate family, maybe your sister's mother, or your father's your father's sister. So it's supposed to be from immediate family, your brother or your sister. Then you need to prove the relationship for them to actually acknowledge that that one can be used. I don't know if I've answered it correctly.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. You have really clarified so much for that, and really appreciate. So I think we have really come to the end of this webinar. We have really discussed a lot, and we are just only 6 minutes past time, and I'm really so happy. So I'll just give a parting shot to each and every presenter who presented this, and most of the questions have been really clarified or answered. So just take like just few seconds, 5 seconds to give a closing remark. So I start with Edna. Just give us a few closing remarks from your side, please. Edna.
Thank you, Paul. Mine is to say, regardless of the immigration restrictions in Europe, they take the opportunity to get the world-class education. It will open the doors to the other places and keep your social capital close to you if you manage to go outside.
Yeah, thank you so much, Edna, for that. Yeah, I'm happy to hear that from you. Furaha, please, your closing remark, please.
Yes, maybe for a closing remark, I can advise maybe others that everything is possible, and we just have to remove the limits to ourselves, like to be able and be willing to learn new experiences and maybe to face new challenges. So if we have that positive mind, then we can get everything that we wish to have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Furaha. Thank you. Be blessed. Yeah, Alice, please, your closing remark, please.
Thank you. I would just like to tell everybody to just dare to dream, and whatever you do it with all your might. And I'll just echo the words of my former Vice Chancellor, Professor Mugenda, who told us, I've trained you not only for this country, but I'm releasing you to the world. Those are the words I followed. Wishing you all the best.
Yeah, thank you, Alice, for your advice and everything. You are our role model. We're just following all that. Divina, your closing remark, please.
Thank you for this kind of meeting. Thank you for all the participants and the attendees. What I can say is you need to upscale your area of expertise to prove to the nations that you can do what other people are doing. And what differentiates those who succeed in foreign countries or even in our own countries is patience and perseverance, not actually being smart. You need to be patient with yourself and you need to persevere in some areas. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Divina, for all your advice. We really do appreciate. Dr. Kimani, your closing remark, and I really thank you. I know Dr. Kimani was sick and was not feeling well at night. He told me he would not make it, but he really tried to come to this meeting. I really thank you a lot. Dr. Kimani, your closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Paul, and all the speakers from different places. And I hope this conversation will continue because it is not an event, it's a process. And I believe many people here, they will need some sort of guidance. If you have an opportunity to hold somebody's hand, don't hesitate to do it. In this world, we are all one, irrespective of what we do with our lives and our families and everything, we are one. So if you're able to help somebody by holding their hand, do it. And then as I close, I think for those who are being, because I also need people to hold my hands as well, there is nothing impossible to a willing heart. So whatever you do, whatever you want to do, go for it. But have the best intentions whatsoever. It will come your way. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you, in many other settings. Good day, good night, good morning.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kimani, for everything. So I really like, before we close, to note that we are going to send this recording to those who registered. I have their emails and those who have shared their phone numbers. So I'm going to add you in the WhatsApp group where we share opportunities, and you can just add your friend. In the WhatsApp group, we don't talk about politics, we don't talk about religion, it's just sharing opportunities only, and we get also advice there. So Dr. Naftali, please, closing remark and also a vote of thanks to the group and also the team, please.
Okay, thank you so much. First, I want to appreciate Paul for his, efforts. I remember when we formed the African Research Center with him, he was a brainchild to this, and I really appreciate, the effort that you have taken. I just want to encourage all the members of in this meeting that it's possible. Nelson Mandela said it's always possible, even when it seems impossible. And I would encourage all of you, prepare your documents. It's about, prepare your mind, prepare your documents. You cannot apply for scholarship yet your CV is not updated. You cannot apply your scholarship like one of the speakers said when your CV is still structured in that traditional manner. You need to up the game because professors and people who receive your documents, they will judge you based on the document that you said. If you present your CV and you're still talking about hobbies and you're talking about some other uh, issues that are not in line with academia or research or so on and so forth, if your statement of purpose for research is not in line with what you're supposed to be doing, if for example you have not fairly well structured your research statement, this you can be sure your application will always fail. So prepare yourself, keep trying. We were there, we made it, and you are there and you are next. That's what I would tell you. Anyone who is willing to apply and explore opportunities in China, I've been here. This is my 6th year, and I can tell you it's possible. It can be done. We are doing it, and I really encourage you to keep trying. For all the speakers who have taken their time, I really want to appreciate you wherever you are. Here is already late. It's at 1:43 a.m. But I had to give my time so that we can be together. We are one community, we are one people, and I really want to appreciate you all. Otherwise, be blessed, and I really appreciate the time that we have had. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Naftali. I really do appreciate when I hear people say we don't have time, and then again they call you, they tell you, oh, please help us to get opportunities. You can see Dr. Naftali, now it's 1 a.m., but he has just given his time to come and talk to us and guide us. And also I know Divina, wherever she is, she's so tight, no time. We have Alice, so tight, no time. Dr. Kimani mentioned there's no time. When you go abroad, really there's no time. But when these guys have just given their time to talk, I really do appreciate. And I don't take it for granted. I really, for them taking time, because there are others I requested, they were not available. So I really appreciate. And I will not forget to say, once you have shared your number, I've already taken down. So I'll be just adding the group. And those I have their emails, I'll be sharing the recording also. I do appreciate and thank you so much. So you are free to leave. And for those who have not shared, just the link will be still on. You can just share so that I can get your numbers to add you in the group. If you have anything, you feel free to talk to anyone and you can reconnect. They are full, also share their contacts. You can talk to them at your own time. Thank you so much. So you're free to leave at this given moment. So I really stop recording the moment now.